Hello, everybody. Welcome to NJ Thrive Small Business Webinars. Today is Thursday, May 9th, and you are attending one of our weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. My name is Uzma Sheikh. I'm a consultant here at NJSBDC, which stands for New Jersey Small Business Development Centers. We are a network and a statewide program powered by the SBA, which stands for Small Business Administration, and partners like NJBAC, to help small businesses in New Jersey with three main things. Those things are no cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. Before I say anything else, please let me know in the chat if you can hear me and see me properly. So put a 1 in the chat, and that should help me understand that we're all good on all ends. Thank you very much. I see the ones come in. Appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, on the map that you see here on the slide, that is, of course, the state of New Jersey with all the counties. On some of the counties, you'll see a small SBDC logo, and that's where our 11 regional centers are located. These regional centers are located at educational institutions, except for one. And you will find them, if you would like to find a specific location on where they are located, go to njsbdc.com. And if you would like to request counseling, then you will be able to find out where exactly these regional centers are located. Now, I saw the ones come in. I would also like to see who you are and what you do. So that just helps. And for each other, please feel free to introduce yourselves, what your small business is about, where you're from in New Jersey, how you heard about this webinar, why you're attending, anything like that. Feel free to share, and that will help our audience network with each other, since this is not in person. But anything that can build your support, your next business partner, your next cheerleader, your support person. So feel free to share. Now, what is on the agenda for today? We have a couple of headlines that I'd like to share with you. Those are just news articles or press releases, anything that is happening in the small business community here in New Jersey. We'd like to share that with you. Then we have our presentation, for which you're here today, and our Q&A session after. So these are small business headlines of the week. If you are following us on our socials, then you will have noticed that we shared these as well throughout the week. First headline that I'd like to share is from us, actually. So it is a press release that we shared this past week that is, again, very important. New Jersey NJSBDC announces launch of new business show, Empowered to Grow. And that is a new business show that we're doing. It is premiering on YouTube and Spotify, as well as other platforms. So stay tuned. And this information that I'm showing over here, we do have, let me just go back up right here. So it will be hosted by Kelly Brosna, our state director and CEO. And as I mentioned, YouTube and other podcast platforms. This will have multiple episodes released monthly, and it will have a diverse lineup of guests, including entrepreneurs, industry experts, and business advisors. All right, so we don't have a link right now to share. It is just an announcement that we're making. However, if you know of someone, or if you'd like to share with us and a guest that you would like to see on the show, then they can apply here. And for more information, you can contact us here. Stay tuned. Next headline is from Founders First, cdc.org. So this is for National Pride Grant for LGBTQIA+ small businesses, a total of $25,000 for 22 business owners. Deadline to complete the application is May 28th of course, this year. We have the partner judges of last year, precedent speakers of last year. The why is providing eligible small businesses the chance to receive one of the 25 grant packages totaling $25,000. Founders First is committed to increasing the number of diverse founder-led businesses, generating over $1 million in revenue. All right, so pretty cool. Check it out. These are the requirements, how it works. And if you'd like to register, this is the application. Feel free to Complete this by May 28th, and feel free to share this with someone who you know, a friend, family member, if they can benefit from this. All right, and third and last is Innovate New Jersey celebration honoring the Innovate 100. This is happening on May 14th from 7 to 10 p.m. New Brunswick PAC Center. Registration is here. There is a dress code. It is a theater presentation, then a networking reception, followed by a musical performance. So this is in person. If you'd like to register and attend, this is the website. All of these links have been or will be shared in the chat, so keep an eye out. All right, some housekeeping rules that we'd like everyone to follow. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A box, not the chat box. If you put them in the chat box, they might get lost or our speaker won't have the opportunity to help you answer your question. If there are any NJSBDC related, feel free to ask them. I or our NJSBDC webinar system will take care of them. If you have any questions related to the presentation, our speaker will answer them. Complete a brief survey and you will receive the slides from our presenter today. So it's a Google Forms. Once you hit submit, then you'll receive the final the link on the final page for the slides. This webinar is being recorded. It will be available on our video library as well as our YouTube channel. So and available in the next 2 to 3 business days. All right, so we have our speaker, Tim Peter, here today. Tim has been one of our speakers before as well, but we're making a return this year with a new webinar. So founder and presenter is all that's on my mind. Founder and president of Tim Peter and Associates. And today's webinar topic is, of course, how to get started using email to drive revenue for your business. So Tim, welcome again. Please go ahead, share your screen, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Ozma. I appreciate it. Can everyone see my screen?
I can.
Awesome. Fantastic. Let me just make sure I can see the chat and the Q&A. All right, cool. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. I'm so much looking forward to speaking with you. I want to start with a really basic question. And that question is something everybody knows the answer to, which is, what is the world's biggest social network? And if you ask most people, they're going to say, well, that's easy. The biggest social network in the world is Facebook. It's got 3 billion users, more than 3 billion users, right? There's just a little bit over 3 billion users who use Facebook every single month. It's crazy how big it is. But I would argue it's not the world's biggest social network. Oh, well, you're saying, okay, maybe it's Instagram instead. Well, no, Instagram actually only has 2 billion users. Now, let's be fair. Between Instagram and Facebook, that covers an awful lot of the planet, but it's still not the biggest social network. And you're going, oh, well, now I know what it is. Of course, if it's not Facebook, if it's not Instagram, it must be TikTok, because TikTok's the fastest growing social network. But it only has about 1.7 billion users. By the way, I love how I say only and 1.7 billion users and 2 billion users and 3 billion users. That's a lot of people, right? But it's not the biggest social network. The biggest social network is email. What do people do when they connect with other people? Social is people, right? Connecting with other people is what social is all about. And there are over 4.3 billion people in the world who have an email address. It is by far the world's biggest social network, and it's not even close, right? It's literally another 1.3 billion people larger than Facebook. But we never think about it. Email is the forgotten social network. It's the social network we don't think about. It's so ingrained in our lives. We don't think about email the same way we don't think about electricity. It's just there when we flip the switch. And it's an incredibly, incredibly valuable tool for us to connect with our customers, right? It's immense what we are able to do in terms of reaching people. Of course, email isn't without its problems. And the biggest problem by far with email is we get a lot of it. There are over 347 billion emails sent every single day. Think about that for a second. 347 billion emails every day. You're probably like, well, I know, I look in my inbox and I got half of them. The reality is it's just too big a number to think about. So what if we just broke it down to every hour? Well, that's 14.5 billion emails every hour. Well, that's too many. Let's break it down to every minute. Okay, there's still 241 million emails sent every minute. That's crazy, right? Okay, maybe we'll get it even tighter than that. Let's take it down to every second. There are still 4,023,148 and 1/4 emails sent every single second. That's crazy. That's why we forget about email, because the problem is that we don't know. The problem isn't that we don't know email exists. The problem isn't that we don't think email works. The problem is that it's tough to cut through the clutter. And that's what I want to talk about a lot today. That's going to be the crux of our discussion today, is not how do you set up email? It's not how do you use email generally. It's how do you make email work for your business? How do you make email drive revenue and profits for your business? How do you ensure that your emails work for you? Because it's not enough to send your customers an email. It's that you have to send emails that your customers will look forward to. It has to be email that your customer wants to get. The average person receives over 120 emails every day. That's a lot. The question is, why do they want yours? Why do they care about yours? Why will they open yours and click through on yours and turn into revenue for your business? That's what we want to do. Now, one of the things that's really important to make that happen is it's not just that your customers want your email, it's that you want customers who want your email. You want customers who look forward to your email. You want people who want to be connected with you as a real person, as a real business. Remember, I said email is the forgotten social network. We connect with social networks where we can stay in touch with the people we care about, with our friends and our family and our fans and our followers. And if you want to be one of the 120 emails that people open every day, then you need to make sure that they think of you as a friend. They think of you as family. So it's not just that you collect customer information. It's not that just that you collect email addresses. It's that you connect with customers who want your email. And that's getting harder to do over time. I'm going to show you a couple things. I have a concern that Google might want to kill email. So this is my email inbox. This is an actual screenshot of my actual email inbox. You know, don't look at the 5,553 unread email in my inbox, right? See, a lot of email. I didn't open them all. Why? Because I don't care about them all. They're not really spam. They're not really worth the trouble of going through and deleting. They're just not worth the trouble of opening. They're not worth the trouble of unsubscribing from. They're just there. Google recognizes that this is a thing that's happening among consumers. So the first thing they've done, and you've all seen this if you use Gmail, is they've gone to a tabbed interface. So we've got primary inbox, we've got a promotions tab, we've got a social tab, we've got an updates tab, and we've got a forums tab. They've moved promotions to their own separate tab because they know, you know what, people don't necessarily want to go there all the time. So let's go ahead and take emails that we, Google, think are promotion. They're using artificial intelligence to do this, but they're saying, we think this is a promotion. You probably don't want to see that in your primary inbox. So we're going to slide it over here to the promotions tab. So getting seen is harder, right? The other thing they do, and this is relatively new, and I love this, sorry, that's sarcasm, is literally they've got a button that if you mouse over any email, I happen to be showing it just for one at the moment, But when you mouse over a headline or you mouse over the, the subject line or a specific email, they literally give you an unsubscribe button right on the email. Google's saying, look, we already think this is something we're going to stick in the promotions tab because we don't think you want to see it. And also, we're going to give you an option right here to unsubscribe without doing anything else because we are going to take really good care of you, the user. Isn't that nice of Google? Isn't that wonderful of Google? You know, you'd almost think they were in the business of selling advertising that competes with email marketing. Oh, wait, hold on. Right? So I'm not saying Google definitely wants to kill email. I'm not saying it's necessarily in their best interest to kill email. I am saying they're making it harder and harder every day. So you want to be the emails your customers want to get. Because when your customers want to get them, they're going to look forward to them. They're going to seek them out and they're going to seek you out. And that's good for your business in the long run. And part of that is making sure you connect with customers who actually want to hear from you. Don't worry about the size of your list. Don't worry about thinking about your list has to be massive. Think about a list that is the right people. And we're going to talk about how you do that as we go forward. So one very basic thing I want to start with is, what if you don't have an email list today? What if you're just getting started? You never have collected emails before. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this slide because there's tons of solutions out there that you can work with. But these are just some decent options for a lot of different businesses, depending on the size of your business and depending on how much you have to invest in email at this point. But if there's things like MailChimp, there are also tools like Constant Contact. There are tools like Emma. There's a bunch of great tools out there that are very similar, that are good for small and mid-sized businesses who are focused on email marketing. You're just sending out emails to stay in touch with your customers. You're focused on the emails that are going to, keep connecting with them over the course of every month or every couple of weeks or every couple of months so that you can maintain that connection. It integrates with WordPress, so that's good. You can make it integrate with Shopify more or less. There's some reasons why it's not simple, but it can be done. It's got a built-in form builder, and we'll talk later about why that's important. And it ranges in price from actually free for the very smallest email lists up to, a couple $100 a month. It's not super, super expensive depending on the size of your business. Brevo is a company that used to be called Sendinblue. So if you've heard of Sendinblue, they're another good option. They're a little bit less expensive than MailChimp, rather. They integrate with WordPress. They integrate with Shopify. They have a form builder. They're a little bit less expensive. And they scale pretty well up to a certain point and maybe a good option if you're a much smaller business or expect you will have a much smaller email list over time. If you are an e-commerce business where you're selling things to your customers, through the web all the time, or you're a B2B company that's selling things to customers all the time, I'm thinking things like parts and the like, replacement parts for your machinery. Drip can be a good option. It kind of integrates with WordPress. It integrates with Shopify really well. It's got a form builder. It's a little bit more expensive because they expect you're making revenue from what you actually sell every single month. But that's available. And then HubSpot and Salesforce are much larger CRM tools. These are really useful for if you've got a sales team, if you've got a customer service team, in addition to your marketing team, because they allow you to build a large customer profile over a long period. They start very inexpensively. They also are available for free for very small email lists where you don't send very often, but they can get very, very, very costly. But they are great solutions if you need an all-in-one solution for your business. Again, all of these folks have competitors. I don't mean to suggest this as recommendations. I mean to give you something to point to of the kinds of things you should be looking at. Does it fit the scale of your business? Does it integrate with WordPress, assuming you're a WordPress site? Does it integrate with Shopify if you're a Shopify site? Does it allow you to build forms easily so that you can collect email addresses? Is it priced well? And where do you find it? Okay, so keep those in mind as well as their competitors. So that's if you don't have an email address. But if, excuse me, an email list. But if you do have an email list, what you want to do is start turning that email list into money for your business. That's really important. And I'm going to take you through a very simple formula that we use all the time, which we call the digital revenue formula, which is visitors times your conversion rate times your customer lifetime value equals revenue. This is how you make money using the web. This is how you make money using digital. This is how you make money using email. Think about it this way. If you get 1,000 visitors to your web presence, and I'll explain what I mean by web presence in a minute, and 5% of those people convert, and every time you get a new customer, they're going to spend $100 with you over time, then your top line revenue is going to be $5,000. Now, this could be, depending on the size of your business, this could be per day, this could be per week, this could be per month. Any of those are fine. If you're doing a side hustle, this could be per year. Don't worry about what the actual numbers are. Think about what they represent. Now, when we talk about visitors to your web presence, we mean every place you exist on the internet. So that could be your website. That could be your Facebook page or your Instagram page. It could be your LinkedIn page if you do primarily business to business kind of work. It could be, did people sign up for your email and open them up? So it's all of the different ways you touch the customer over the course of a period. And if you get 1,000 of those folks over an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, and 5% of them turn into a sale, and they buy $100 worth of stuff over the course of the time they buy from you, you're going to end up with $5,000 over the course of whatever period we're looking at. And the way you drive growth is you either increase your visitors. So if we get 2,000 people as opposed to 1,000 people, and nothing else changes, we just went from 5 grand to 10 grand. Or we can increase our conversion rate. Keep every other number keep every other number the same. But if we go from a 5% conversion rate to a 10% conversion rate, we go from 5 grand to 10 grand. Or keep every other number the same, and we go from $100 to $200 spend. We go from 5 grand to 10 grand. And of course, in a perfect world, we increase all of these. We increase every single one of them. And suddenly, our business really starts to take off. And again, for some of you, that might be $40,000 a year. For some of you, it might be $40,000 a day. It doesn't matter what the actual number is. It matters that you're focused on how we grow the number of visitors and the number of people we get to talk to. How do we increase our conversion rate? How do we increase how much they spend with us over the time we work together? And so that we can grow our top line revenue for the long term and do it at the lowest possible cost. Now, when I mentioned visitors a moment ago, I want to talk about one other thing, and that is something that we call the hub and the spoke model. And the hub and the spoke model is very, very simple. The hub is what you own. They are the channels that are yours and nobody can touch. That's your website. That's your email list. Those are yours. You get to control them always. Okay? The spokes are the places where people can reach you that you don't control. They're things like your Google business profile, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your LinkedIn page, your Twitter page. By the way, I refuse to call it X. It will be always Twitter as far as I'm concerned. If you've got a YouTube page, if you sell through third-party sites, so you sell on Amazon, you sell on Etsy, you sell through G2 if you're a B2B company, any of those are spokes that ideally bring traffic to your hub. And your hub sends out content and information to those spokes so that people can find you. And of course, we have to allow for the future. There may be things down the road that we go, oh, that's a really good idea. We should start using that. Neither is necessarily better or worse. You want both, because the more spokes you're on, the more places people can find you. The downsides of spokes are you don't control them. They can change the rules of how you get seen anytime they want. And they can change what it costs you to be seen anytime they want. They can increase the cost of reaching customers. So spokes are valuable for getting reach, but you lack control. The hub, those are the things you control. The upsides are you get to control them and you can manage your costs really effectively on them. The downside, of course, is sometimes it's hard to get reach. So it's not an either or of hub or spoke. It is a both and hub and spoke. And your email list and your website are your hub. They're the things you always control. You always want to start there. So when we think about your email and we think about how you want to grow your email list and we think about how you want to use email to grow your business, there is a very, very simple process that we use and have used for years and years and years to make this work. And we call it the 4 C's of email success. And they are collect, cultivate, convert, and cleanse. Now, I want to point out, I said we've used this for years. This actually goes back to the days of direct mail. If anybody on this call is old enough to remember things like the Sears catalog, when I was a little boy, you'd get a catalog every year from Sears that would have all of the things that they offered for sale. It was a website in book form, and you could order through the catalog and have things shipped to you, right? It was just a physical website is the easiest way to think about it. But what they did was they collected addresses so they could send the catalog to you. They cultivated that list. What I mean by that was they learned more about what you cared about. And if you bought certain types of products throughout the year, you would get smaller, what they called inserts, smaller versions of the catalog that were just about the types of things you tended to buy. So if you bought, clothes, you would actually get a little insert about men's clothes. If you bought musical instruments, you would get the musical instrument insert. If you got, if you bought, I was going to say phones, but this is long before phones, but pretend there were phones. If you bought electronics, you might get the electronics insert, right? All of these were things they were doing to cultivate the list. And they cultivated the list so that they could drive conversion, so that you could convert. By the way, I see the folks in the chat saying, no, I don't remember the Sears catalog. Yeah, I know. I'm not that young. My point is, and the reason that I'm bringing this up is because this is something that has been done literally for more than 100 years, long before there was email. And this practice will survive even if email goes away. The reason that I love this model is we do this today with companies where they're doing SMS marketing, where they're messaging folks through their phone. And you're doing exactly the same thing. You're not collecting an email address, you're collecting a phone number. We do work with some companies in Europe that are doing this with WhatsApp. They're not getting a phone number and email address. They're getting the WhatsApp phone number, but it's again doing the exact same thing of we collect, we cultivate, we convert, and then cleanse over time is you make sure, remember I said you want to talk to people who want to hear from you. Over time, you get rid of the folks who don't want to hear from you so that you keep focusing on the people who actually get value from you, right? So that's what we want to think about. Remember this model, even if a year from now, email stops working and you decide, you know what, we really need to do SMS marketing, or we really need to do WhatsApp marketing. That's completely fine. Or we want to do messaging through messaging on Facebook or Instagram. It's the same idea. Collect, cultivate, convert, cleanse. So let's talk about each of these steps. The first rule when we think about collecting, when we think about any kind of marketing, any kind of direct marketing like email marketing, is that without a list, you have no one to market to, right? I started with giving you a slide about here's some different places where you can actually build an email list, because if you don't have a list, you can't market. There's nothing you can do. So you have to build your list. one of the things you want to remember is that we know to be sure. This is from Axiom, actually. Um, the list itself, the list itself is the single biggest predictor of the success of your email marketing program. 40% of the list is roughly, 40% of the success is roughly driven by the list. 35% is driven by the subject line, and 25% is driven by the message or the offer. So think about this, if you will. We've actually done this as tests. We conducted a test where we sent the same message to 3 separate lists that the company had built over a few years, a company I worked with. And we segregated the list into 3 groups: high value, more recent contacts who had double opted in; medium value contacts, some of which were older, who had double opted in; and low value, much older contacts imported from other sources who only had a single opt-in. They said, we opt in solely by giving you our email address. The high value list outperformed the medium value list by more than 10% in both open and click rates. The high value list outperformed the low value list by almost 60%, right? And outperformed in clicks by about 5%. Now, obviously, getting people to open is the hard part, and click rates don't vary that much. But obviously, your numbers are going to be much, much lower if nobody opens. If nobody opens your email, your click-through rate is going to be 0 as well. And if you think about it, who you send the message to is almost always going to be more important than the message you send them. Let's say, if I could ask in the chat, somebody share something you like to buy. Just taking a look. Anybody see anything you really like to buy? Shoes. Perfect. Audiobook. Shoes. I see shoes a couple times. Flowers. Perfect. Okay, great. Let's do shoes. Let's say that I'm a male. I identify as male, right? I wear men's shoes as a general rule. If you send me an offer, a message that always talks about you sell women's shoes, I'm never going to open those, ever, because you're not speaking to me. I see one here is a commercial cleaning company. I work from my home. I don't have any need for a commercial cleaning company. Putting me on the list does nothing for your business. So the point is, having the right list is more important than the subject line. And having the right subject line is more important than the message itself, because they'll never see the message if they don't open. But you've got to send it to the right person first. Obviously, once you're sending it to the right person, then the subject line matters. Then the open rate matters. Then the message that you offer them matters. But you've got to start with, are we talking to people who buy shoes? Are we talking to people who buy auto parts? Are we talking to people who buy commercial cleaning services? If we're not, it doesn't matter what the message is, they're not going to open it. And okay, maybe you can have the world's greatest subject line and you get their interest and they open because it's like, huh, what's that all about? They're still not going to buy because they're not the customer, right? Okay. The next thing you want to remember is that if your list is not growing, it is shrinking. There are 2 stats I want you to remember, 2 terms I want you to remember. One is called churn rate, and one is called list fatigue. So churn rate is very simple. Churn rate are the people who stop getting your email. It doesn't mean that they unsubscribed, though they could unsubscribe. It could mean that they moved companies. You know, you're in business to business and they move to a new company and they get a new email address. Suddenly that email that you have is of no value to you. They could have chosen to subscribe. And because they were in the market for, I'm going to use our commercial cleaning company example. They were in the market for commercial cleaning company, and then they changed to a work from home model and no longer need commercial cleaning. They didn't unsubscribe, but after time, they'll be like, wait, why am I getting this email? I don't remember signing up for this. And they say that it's spam. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not really spamming them, but they're just opting out in one or more ways because it's no longer relevant to them. Or their email address no longer works because they changed it because they moved businesses or the like. That rate of churn typically runs about 30% per year. So if you look here on the right side of the screen, if your email list last year was about 10,000 people, And again, on the size of your business, this could be 100 people, it could be 1,000 people, it could be 100,000 people. Just think about the base number. The percentages will still work. So you had an email list last year of 10,000 people. This year, just because of churn, that number is going to fall to 7,000 people. Next year, it's going to fall to 4,900 people. And the year after that, it's going to fall to 3,430 just because of churn. If your email list is not growing, it's shrinking. Separately, you do get list fatigue. List fatigue is another thing that happens. Over time, people just stop opening, probably because they no longer are in the market for the thing you sell. I bought a pair of shoes from that company because they were hip and trendy. They were kind of cool or whatever. But over time, my tastes change. Now I need a different type of shoes that maybe you don't sell. So I stop opening your email. I don't take the time to unsubscribe. I don't mark it as spam. I also don't open the email. Remember the screenshot of my inbox that showed 5,000 plus unopened emails? I just stopped opening those. And though that's called list fatigue. Those are the people who simply don't pay attention any longer. They don't open, they don't click through, or they don't convert. In the email marketing industry, they refer to this as you've become bacon. The idea being that bacon is really high quality spam. Ha ha ha. Right? They don't think you're spam. They also just don't think you're worth anything. I actually hate the term bacon as that because to me, I think bacon's like super high value. I would have totally opened bacon. But you get the idea. The idea being they've decided you're no longer worth reading, you're no longer worth opening up, and they just stop going and opening up your email addresses. There is not a good number that I've seen as an industry-wide number in terms of what percentage of your email list is list fatigue. My experience says that it's about 10 to 30% as well. So you can add another 10%, or rather subtract another 10% from each of these numbers every year, and know that your list is actually getting smaller than what churn rate alone would suggest. The point is, if your list isn't growing, it's shrinking. So you need to be growing your list every chance you get. So how do we grow our list every chance we get? Well, we collect email addresses, and we can collect them lots and lots of different ways. You've seen all of these, so I'm going to run through these quickly, but we can get them right at site entry. Hey, somebody shows up at the site, we ask them to provide an email address. I do want you to note, one of the things that I love about both of these is each of them give people a reason to give the email address. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what we want you to do, and you'll be the first to find out about special events. Plus, you'll get a free piece of cornbread on your next visit to our restaurant. Perfect. That's fantastic. You've told me what I get in benefit for giving you an email address. Give us an email address, you save 10% on your first purchase. Really, really smart, really simple, and we get the people right when they show up. You can give them in exchange for things like content or webinars. So this is my website. Hey, download this white paper, register. And when you do that, we're going to go ahead and you're going to give us your email address. We're going to give you a white paper. Very, very simple. People do that all the time. You've seen this many times. You can have a dedicated opt-in. So these are a couple of different businesses where they have a spot right on their website. This happens to be in the footer of this one. This is in the footer of this one. Give us your email address and go ahead and opt in. If you click on, if people go through checkout, again, give us your email address, and we'll go ahead and, finish the checkout. What I'd like you to do is when you think about this, when you think about your business, in the interest of time, we're not going to do this right now, but take a moment at the end of this webinar. Take 5 minutes before you go back to your business or go back to the next thing you're going to do today and look to see where you ask customers to sign up for email on your site and what do you offer them in exchange for doing that. Then look at your competitors and see what they do. Are they doing a better job of that? If they are, they're actually doing a better job of connecting with customers overall. They're doing a better job of collecting of the 4 C's. You want to make sure that you're doing a better job than your competitors. because the first rule is without a list, you have no one to market to. Without a list, you simply can't market. Now, once we've built our list and keep building our list, we need to cultivate that relationship over time. Some businesses treat email, they treat the customer relationship a little like you might see in a dating app, right? It's who's available right now. I'm not looking for Mr. Right or Ms. Right. I'm looking for Mr. Right now, right? Instead of thinking about it in that kind of relationship, maybe we should be looking for more of like a Hallmark romance. We want to build a deep relationship with our customers over time. We want to become friends. Remember, this is the forgotten social network. Treat this like you would a relationship. Imagine if you went on a date and the first thing this person on the date said to you was, "Hey, tell me everything about yourself. What do you like? What do you plan to do for the rest of your life? Do you plan to get married? Do you plan to have kids? What's going on in your life? How much money do you make? How much money do you plan to make? When do you want to retire? Where do you want to live?" You'd be like, "Whoa, dude, back off. That's super creepy. That's not something that I want to tell you right now. We're not there yet. We haven't hit that spot in our relationship yet, right?" Instead, you want to think about the way you cultivate the relationship with your customers, the way you would cultivate a relationship in real life. What's appropriate to do on your first meeting? What's appropriate to do on your first date? What do you do while you're dating? Then maybe someday you get engaged. Then maybe someday you get married. But you're thinking in terms of building a relationship over time so that you're saying, "Hey, on the first thing, the first time we connect, all I need from you is an email address. That's all I need to know right now. That way we can stay in touch." Maybe over time you say in an email, "Hey, here's an email message that says, we'd love to be able to tell you about special offers that are relevant to you. What are the things you care about? Do you care about, I'm going to use our commercial cleaning example, for example, do you care about the environmental sustainability? Do you care about, um, cost? Do you care about how quickly we can respond to your needs?" Right? Those would all be different things you can learn about your customer. And then that allows you to create better subject lines and better messages for that specific customer. Because we're not sending a message out to the entire list, ideally over time, but we're sending it just to the people who talk about environmental responsibility and care most about environmental responsibility. Or we send the message out to the people who need fast turnaround that talks about our speed and talks about how well we can meet their needs in terms of speed and service. We begin to turn the list into 2 lists or 3 lists or 4 lists because we know who we're talking to. I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of you have sent an email somewhere in the last couple of weeks, and you sent an email to a specific person. You didn't sit down and write an email that said, "Great, great specials tonight at such and such," and very generic messages that said, "Hey, special person in my email list, thought you might like to know that there are great rates at such and such a place." No, you said, "Hey, Bob, hey, Sally, hey, Jane, you might like to know that we're holding a special this week on the thing that you're looking to buy specifically and the thing that you care about specifically. Why don't you come on into the store and come take a look and we'll take care of you," right? You had a personal conversation with them. We need to do that with our list. You may never get down to sending individual messages to individual people, but you might say on our email list, we don't actually have 5,000 people on our list. We have 5 lists of 1,000 people each who care about specific things. You might say we have 3 lists and there's 3,000 people on each because some people care about more than one of those things, right? But you're cultivating the list based on knowing what matters to them. The messages that you care about, or the metrics that you care about, are things like your open rate, your effective click rate, and your conversion rate. I'm so sorry. The open rate is very simple. That's the percentage of people who actually open the email that you sent them and read the contents of the email. They also look at people who click once they've opened the email. If they click, that's called the click rate. I prefer something called the effective click rate. That's the percentage of people who opened your email and then clicked on a link within the email. Obviously, they can't click if they don't open, which is why I prefer effective click rate over just straight click rate, because obviously they didn't click if they didn't open. So effective click rate actually tells you that number. And then conversion rate is the percentage of people who took action once they clicked. They came to your website and they bought something. They came to your website and they downloaded a white paper if you're in B2B. They came to your website and they signed up for a webinar that you might be offering. Each of these are things that you care about to drive your business forward in the long run. Once you know these metrics, there's a few things you need to do. There's a few things you need to know to actually turn people who open into people who convert. And to do that, we want to talk about what I call the royal court of digital. And it starts with content. The thing that you want to remember is content is, was, and always shall be the king, right? Content is your 24/7 by 365 customer service person. It is your 24/7 by 365 salesperson. It works for you all day, every day to turn potential people into customers, to turn prospects into customers. The second member of our royal court is customer experience, and customer experience is queen. People need to feel taken care of. They need to feel like you're looking out for them. And in our world, content and customer experience, the king and the queen, they rule side by side. It's not that one is better than the other, it's that they work together to create a great experience for your customer, solve their problems, and help them do what they need to do. And then, of course, kings and queens are great, but they only get so far if they don't have any money, right? Which is why data is the crown jewels. Data allows us to know more about our customers over time so that we can create ever more targeted content and ever more targeted customer experiences that turn them into business, that actually make them somebody who wants to pay attention to you. So we're going to talk about some very specific things you can do with content, with customer experience, and with data. Let's start with content. The first thing you have to know is that more than half of emails are read on people's phones. You want to keep your messages simple. You want to write for the phone. And the way we do that is something called snackable, shareable, and sharp content. Now, when I say snackable, I mean it's content that people can read easily. It doesn't mean it has to be short. It means that each element has to be quickly understood. You can have, one of my favorite meals, my wife and I all the time have dinner by getting a loaf of crusty bread and some cheese and some salami and some prosciutto and some grapes and some olives, right? Each of those are little snacks that we've put together into a very, very tasty meal. So it doesn't have to be short. It's that each bite earns another bite. Each word in your message, each sentence, their job is to earn another word and another sentence of attention from your customer. I'm sure people on this webinar have binge watched shows on things like Netflix. I know I do all the time, right? You'll watch a whole show for a whole weekend, or in a whole weekend, rather. Why'd they do that? Because they were able to earn your attention. Don't listen to people when they say people won't pay attention. Of course they will. They'll pay attention if you give them something worth paying attention to. You also want to do it in a snackable way and then repeat that process. You also want to make it shareable. Now, when I say shareable, I mean, it's got to be something that's easy for them to share. Do you have a forward button in your email? Do you have something that allows them to share it with other people who might care? The second thing is it has to be something worth sharing. Is it of quality such that they want to tell people about it? Oh my gosh, you've got to see this great offer I've got, or you got to see this great opportunity that I got, or you have to see this great piece of content that I got, right? Something that makes them feel good and makes them look good and makes it worth sharing. Doesn't mean it has to be a deep discount. It just means it has to be good value. My gosh, you won't believe the shoes that these people are offering are amazing. And they're a good price for shoes like this. Doesn't mean they have to be the cheapest. It just means, can you believe they're selling shoes like this for this kind of value? And of course, sharp means that it's focused, it's to the point. Let them get their point, let them get to what they need and move on with their lives. I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of you folks are probably pretty busy every day. You've got lots to do. The fact that you take the time for these webinars is amazing. And if I sat here and talked about stuff that wasn't email or wasn't how you can actually do this, you'd be like, why am I wasting my time with this? You got to get to the point. That's what Sharp is. So remember, snackable, shareable, Sharp that people are looking at on their phones while they're waiting to pick up their kids after school or after practice, or while they're, visiting someone in the hospital, right? They're taking care of an elderly parent. Get to the point and let them get on with their lives. Snackable, shareable, Sharp. Think in terms of the emails you open. Think in terms of the emails you click on. Which are the ones that appeal to you? Which are the ones that actually work? When you see a headline or you see a subject line that works really well for you, that you clicked on, take a copy of that and put it in a little Word doc or put it in a Google Doc so that you can come back to it later. That's called a swipe file. Because the next time you need to create an email, you can go look in your swipe file and you can see, wow, these were some subject lines that I really loved. These were some offers I really loved. I'm going to go ahead and borrow from these to create something similar for my customers and see how it works. That will give you some insights into whether or not you're actually, doing what your competitors are doing or doing what other folks are doing. Subscribe to your competition's email and see what they're doing well so that you can learn and create your own swipe file to try to get better over time. You can also do things like testing artificial intelligence to test your copy. I'm going to give you a couple of examples right here. Okay, so I'm using Bing Copilot. This is free. This doesn't cost anything. I'm using this in GPT-4 turbo mode, right? And that is actually the best AI you can get access to today for free. Even if you use a paid version of ChatGPT or you're using a paid version of Google Gemini, the quality is no better. The only thing that Bing Copilot limits is the number of times you can ask a question per day. But otherwise, this is the best AI you can get right at the moment, and it's available for free. So I said, imagine you're an expert copywriter. This is what's called the prompt. Imagine you're an expert copywriter with strong expertise in the restaurant industry. Please craft a compelling headline that will drive open rates for your Mediterranean restaurant in New Brunswick, New Jersey. So I typed that in and I went ahead and I said, go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn off the audio. And it immediately came back with, savor the sun-drenched flavors, New Brunswick's premier Mediterranean escape awaits. This headline is designed to evoke the warmth and richness of Mediterranean cuisine, while also highlighting the restaurant as a top destination in New Brunswick. It's a pretty good headline. It's pretty good. You can also use a tool that I use all the time called Omnisend Subject Line Tester, which is available at omnisend.com/subject-line-tester. That actually allows you to see how it rates the email and how likely people are to actually engage with it. And they rated this at about 75%. The big knock on it was it's a little long in terms of characters and a little long in terms of words. So you can test different versions of this to see what works better for your business. The point is, you've got tools available to help you do a better job. The other thing you can do is you can use AI as a focus group to see whether or not people will like it. So I said, great, let's go ahead and take this email and let's go ahead and say, imagine you're a mother with two kids, ages 12 and 14 in New Jersey, that loves getting takeout on Friday nights for your family. You're looking for something new to try. Which of these two email subject lines do you think you'd be most likely to click on? The second one is one that I had the AI generate. The first one is the one that I created. This week's 3 best specials at your favorite Mediterranean escape. So let's see what the AI says. This is going to take just a moment. This one took a little bit longer. And that says both subject lines are enticing, but they may appeal to different preferences. The first is straightforward and informative. It suggests a sense of familiarity and highlights the idea of getting a good deal with the word specials. The second is more evocative and descriptive. It paints a vivid picture and might appeal to someone looking for a unique dining experience. As a mother looking to delight her family with something new on a Friday night, the second option might be more appealing because it promises an experience, not just a meal. Notice it said both of them are really, really good, right? It said both of them are good. Notice, though, they might be good for different people. So that's why data is the crown jewels. If we know that person A belongs in list A and would prefer, the 3 best specials, and person B would prefer this experience, knowing what matters to your customer becomes really important. And that's something you want to add to your email list over time. That's why you build the relationship, because it will help you determine what is actually the right thing to say to that customer. So, in terms of your email marketing best practices, as you cultivate the list over time, have a goal for every email you send. What are the objectives you have when you're sending those? Don't just send an email because we send a monthly newsletter blast. That's a bad reason to send an email. Netflix doesn't release a show because they say, "Oh, we're just going to release something because it's Tuesday." No, they create a really good show that people will want to binge by thinking about why they're creating it and who they're creating it for. And provide clear, strong calls to action for every message that you send. What do you want people to do after they open it? We send them things for the restaurant. Bring in this coupon for 5% off, or bring in this coupon for for a free baklava, right? Or an extra share of baklava or something along those lines. But give them I like Greek food. But give them a clear call to action of what you expect them to do. You're in a commercial carpet cleaning service. Call today for a quote. You've told them what you want them to do. You also want to align this with your content calendar. What is it you're talking about at specific times of year? What are the points that matter right now? I do a lot of work in travel. We're coming up on Memorial Day weekend. We're talking about Memorial Day right now. We're talking about deals in the summer or offers in the summer. I shouldn't say deals because I don't want people to think you should always offer a low price. You should offer a good value, right? People get what they expect and more for whatever price they pay. I spent a lot of time in my career working with luxury companies. We never offered a discount. We always wanted to make sure we offered a value. Test the ratio of copy to images in your email. And I'll show an example of this in a couple of minutes. But the idea is make sure that you've got the right amount of copy and the right amount of imagery that actually works for you. Please, please, please make all your images clickable. Make sure that somebody can actually click, and test a sense of urgency. Test something like act now before this offer expires, or act now before we run out of inventory, before we run out of space in the restaurant. Friday nights book up really quick. Call today for reservations, or click here to make a reservation today. Okay. Once you've got the email list, once you've started cultivating the list, now you want to convert. And when we talk about converting, what we're talking about is we want to remove friction between the customer goal and the end goal. You want to think about this like a Venn diagram, right? We got 2 circles. Here's what your customer wants. Here's what you want. The holy grail is where those 2 overlap. Now, when I say where they overlap, they're never going to be a perfect circle. They're never going to be completely the same thing, because what your customer wants is whatever they want, and they want it, for as close to free as they possibly can. You want to charge them as much money as you possibly can, because that's how you stay in business and grow your business over the long term, right? I once had a customer, true story, completely true story. A customer said, "We don't like email because the people who buy for email the people who buy through email spend less money than the people who buy through our website, or they talk to our salespeople or things along those lines. So we started looking at all their all their emails that they send out. And literally every email that they sent out was save 35%, save 40%, save 45%. We were like, hold on, I think I know why it is your emails aren't generating revenue for you. We told them if you want to offer a discount, offer 5% every email, right? What they were doing is occasionally they would offer a small discount. And then at the end of the month, when they weren't making their numbers, they'd send out a big discount. And what they taught their customers over time was wait for the end of month sale. Don't do that. Just go ahead and, make a good value offer every single time. But when you get an overlap of what your customers want and what you want, then you've hit the holy grail. So you want to have strong calls to action, right? The things that matter are things like the size of the call to action. Can people see it? Is it easy for people to see? Is it placed well so that if I open the email, I see it right now? Oh, shop now. I get that. What's the verbiage? Buy now, shop now, act now, learn more. Notice the urgency. Shop now, shop now. Is it a button or is it a link? Either of those can work. In some businesses, you will find links work better than buttons. That tends to be more true for B2B than B2C. So if you're selling to other businesses, than if you're selling to consumers like this. If I'm doing a B2B email, I'm going to use my commercial cleaning company. I can send an email that looks like I'm just sending it to an individual person. Hey, Dave, I wanted to let you know about this thing that we're doing. Click here to schedule an appointment, and it's just a link in the email. That may work better than having a button like this. You've got to test and see what works for your business, but either could potentially work. And color. Do you have the right color that actually pops and lets people see it? Do you have a focused message combined with a strong call to action? What are we actually doing here? Hey, here's Travel and Leisure's best awards winner, 15% off. We've got a strong offer. Here's deal of the week. Here's AI and B2B commerce removing roadblocks to growth. Here's a document that you can get, a piece of copy that you can get that will actually connect with people and tell them what we want them to do. Right? You also have to make sure that when people click through the email to a landing page on your website, it actually continues what you told them you were going to do. So notice, here's our Serena and Lily tent sale. And when I click through to the website on my phone, I land on the summer tent sale. It's the same message. I cannot tell you the number of emails I've seen over the course of my career where we talk about, hey, here's our summer tent sale. And you click and you land on the homepage, and there's nothing on the homepage about the tent sale. And then they leave because I just came over here for the tent sale. I don't see a tent sale. I don't have time to go look for this. I'm a busy person. So I leave. I'm gone. Think about making sure you continue that practice. And then, of course, we want to make sure we improve our customer lifetime value, which not too hard. I mean, not too hard. It's relatively straightforward in terms of what you need to think of. First, we need to increase the frequency of purchases, or increase the average order size, how much they spend per, or get them to stay as customers for a longer period, or target the most valuable customer type, so the people who spend the most money with you, or do all of those. We're trying to build one on top of the other. So that could be another segment that you look at within your business. You could have, we have James, we have LeBron, and we have Steph. The first time they come, they spend $25 with us. And that's true for all of them. But maybe James doesn't ever come back. He's a low value customer. LeBron, he comes back a second time and he spent a little bit more. We upsold him the second time, and then we never see him again. He becomes a medium value customer. Steph, he comes back. The second time he comes back, he spends a little more. The third time he comes back, he spends a little more. The fourth time he comes back, he brings somebody with him. Imagine we're a restaurant and this is, they're buying a meal, right? They become a high value customer. So we can actually segment our customers into lists of the low value, medium value, and high value customers and test different offers for each of them. to see what works for them. We can try to get James to come back a second time, or we can try to get Steph to come back again and again and again. I will tell you, in my experience, it tends to work better if you have people who come more than once, come even more frequently than getting somebody who came once and never came ever again to come back. I can't promise that will be true for you, but generally, if people have shown a propensity to come back to you again and again and again, it's usually easier to get them to come again and spend more. By the way, this is true whether you have a physical location or whether they're buying, through your website. If people come back to your website and buy more than once, getting them to come back one more time and buy is easier than getting somebody who only came once to come back a second time or a third time or a fourth time. But you should test and see what works for your business. Now, we've talked about collect, we've talked about cultivate, we need to talk about cleanse, right? Cleansing, I said data is the crown jewels. You want to treat customer data as though it's priceless, because it is. Treat your customer data like your business depends upon it, because it does. It really matters. You're a custodian of their data. You're taking care of their data for them. You don't own it. You're the caretaker. You want to segment your list over time. You want to reconnect with dormant users. So let's take our example before, where James came once and we've never seen them again. Send them a message to see if we can get them to come back. If they don't come back repeatedly, we're going to want to delete old data over time. If somebody hasn't come back to you again and again and again, or you haven't heard from them in a year or 2 years, send them an email offering them something to re-engage with you. If they don't, put the data in what's called a dormant state, which means you don't message them for a while. Just in case they come back, you can reactivate them. But after they've been dormant for a long time and you've tried to reactivate them and they don't engage, throw the data away. If you have a data breach, if somebody steals your data, you can't be accused of holding on to data you don't have rights to. So don't worry about that. Pay attention to your results over the long term. Pay attention to how you're doing in terms of open rate, unique clicks, effective rate, and especially unsubscribe rate. This is a real company that I worked with. This was based on benchmark data that came from one of the large email providers. They tend to provide competitive benchmarks that you can measure against. We saw what our client was doing and what their competitors, what the industry averages were. Unique clicks, they were doing worse. Effective rate, they were doing worse. And unsubscribes, they were doing worse. So we worked on improving those numbers specifically so that they could outperform the industry across the board. And there are tools. I talked about something like HubSpot. Most of the tools provide things like autoresponders. You can do something called drip marketing. And drip marketing is where you actually send a specific set of messages over time once somebody has subscribed, so that they get message A on the day they subscribe, they get message B maybe a few days later, they get message C maybe a week after that. You set it up once and it just works. You can also do tools in these to do things like fork. Well, if they take action A, we're going to send them a different message. If they take action B, we're going to send them a different message, so that you're sending a message that's targeted on what matters to them. Their behavior drives the segments rather than just you having to create a new email every single time. And there's a ton of tools that can help you do this that are all very, very, very effective. Now, I want you to remember the 4 C's of success. You want to collect, you want to cultivate, you want to convert, you want to cleanse, because that will help you build a strong list that will drive revenue for your business for the long term. And at this time, what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn it over for some questions before we wrap up. Uzma, do we have questions?
Hey, Tim. So we're ready for Q&A?
Yeah, do we have questions?
We do have questions. We have about 7 questions.
Okay, cool. Fantastic.
Perfect. So here, all right, we'll go in the order that we receive the questions. And
Yeah.
I believe this is from when you were talking about subject lines and their importance.
Yeah.
Avi asked, could you provide examples of subject line for commercial cleaning company?
So candidly, I've not worked with commercial cleaning companies. I don't know the customer type very well. I don't know what's important to the customer. What I might suggest is test using something like Bing AI, Bing Copilot, and subscribe to your competitors' email lists and see what they're sending, and then test those for your business. You can also take their email subject lines that they're sending out, put those in something like Bing Copilot or ChatGPT, and ask it to provide you some variations that you can test as well. Then measure your open rate to see what's working best for you. Okay.
Perfect. Next question is from Anonymous. It says, sending mass emails could potentially add your domain to blacklist. How do I avoid that?
Great question. So first, make sure you're using a high quality email service provider. So folks like MailChimp, folks like Brevo, folks like Constant Contact. It's in their best interest to ensure that you don't get blacklisted, because if you get blacklisted, there's a strong level that they will too. They won't let you send spammy emails. Second, make sure you're only sending to email addresses that you have collected, where people have opted in directly with you. There's something called a double opt-in, where the customer gives you an email address, you send them an email, and then they have to click a link in the email to confirm that they subscribed. Double opt-in will help ensure that you're not seen as spammy as well. Third, watch your unsubscribe rates. If you're getting a very high unsubscribe rate, it's a strong, or a high complaint rate, people have complained about the email, it's a sign that they're seeing you as spammy. And then work with your email service provider. They'll have specific help ideas on what you can do to change what you're doing to ensure you're not seen as being spammy and getting blacklisted. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Next question is also from Anonymous. What are the percentages of these that represent a successful campaign? I think they're referring to a certain slide or something.
Yep. I'm going to go back to this slide. You can check with whichever email service provider you're using usually will publish a set of averages. You tend to see them about once a year or once per quarter, broken out by industry, because what's successful in e-commerce and what's successful in, say, consulting, and what's successful in, say, B2B industrial manufacturing could be very, very, very different numbers. So check, do a Google search for, put your industry in, industry average open rates, industry average click-through rates, and usually the email service providers have pretty good numbers you can point to. There are some I look at, but I tend to look at very specific industries, so I don't want to give you the wrong one. Okay, Google search will lead you to the right place there.
Thank you.
Right? No problem.
Next question is from Anonymous. Can you repeat the best AI company and program to use for email marketing?
Sure. So I don't want to say it's the best. I started by showing Bing specifically because this one's free, right? So Bing is a very useful tool. Most of the email service providers today, like MailChimp, like Constant Contact, like Emma, like Brevo, have some AI tools, some of which are free and some of which are paid. And then I'm a big fan of the subject line tester from OmniSend, and they also have some paid tools that you can use that can help you improve. So there's a bunch out there, but it's really what works for your specific terms. What I like about Bing Copilot specifically, you can see I'm on Bing and you just click on the Copilot tab, is you can test that for free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Got it. Next question is, I am a certified life coach and I'd like to use email marketing to get new clients for one-on-one coaching. I don't have an email list. Would it be fair to add friends and associates to my first email and allow them to opt out?
I might go at that a slightly different way. Usually asking people to opt out from a bulk send can get you listed as spam. So what I might do is I might send a personal email to people I know and give them a link to where they can opt in. And then ask them, or ask them if there's anybody they know, and ask them to forward the email you sent them to a friend that has the link to where they can opt in, right? So use your network to grow your list, but don't necessarily opt them in, unsubscribe, unprompted. Let them say, yes, I actually do want to do this. Okay. But you can start one-on-one with people and then grow it over time.
Good suggestion. Next question is from Gerardo, who says, do you recommend any good CRM systems that automate email blasts?
So each of these that you see on the screen that you'll get in the slides, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, Suite, CRM, Insightly, Zoho, and Salesforce, all will let you do that, as will all the folks that we looked at on this slide. I have to go back real quick. Sorry, it's much earlier in the deck. But all the folks that I listed here will also let you do automated bulk sends. That's a very common feature that you're going to see just about everywhere.
All right, next question. What are the ethics of building a list of people that you have worked with in the past but have lost contact with? Can you build a list without their opt-in?
So I don't want to get into ethics specifically because obviously your personal ethics and my personal ethics might vary. I will say there's something called the CAN-SPAM Act, which is a law here in the United States. There's the California the California Privacy Regulations Act, and there are about 14 other states that have privacy laws, almost all of which have some degree of penalty for just automatically opting in people. I would say, just like we talked about with the life coach question earlier, I would say reach out to people with an email address that they have personally and give them a link to some place where they can opt in. I wouldn't automatically subscribe people without them taking action.
Yep. Next question is from Wenjin. I usually don't open commercial emails because so many scam from emails. How do I identify an email and not a trap or a scam email?
Yeah, so if you get an email and it looks sketchy, don't click on anything. I mean, there's no simple answer to this. Usually the spam filter in your email should be pretty good at knocking those out. But if you see something that looks sketchy and it gives you a bad feeling, don't click on any links. Go to their website, type in the URL itself and see, type in the actual URL, or do a Google search for that website itself and see if it comes up as a real place and then go from there. But, don't click. There's an old joke on the internet about risky clicks. Don't avoid risky clicks, right? That's the kind of thing that I would encourage you to do. Okay.
If I can just add my personal thing that I use.
Please, yeah, please.
I go and look at the from email address. So that usually helps me too. If it's from a spammy email address, then it'll tell you. It's just like a gut instinct feeling that you get. If it's like, using, for example, like NJ Thrives, like us, we had to put a disclaimer out last month that people were, sending phishing emails using our name and our thing. So our email address will end with @njsbdc.com. But if there's like @nj_sbc or something like that, that, it's spammy.
What I would add to that, Uzma, if I may, is just
Yep.
watch for those. Be very careful with those specifically. Where, again, I might encourage you to do a search as well, because you might not know the difference between NJ Thrive or NJSBDC or NJ_. But if the website doesn't share the same URL, that can be the tip off. The
For
other
sure.
thing I would suggest is sometimes they'll trick you where. I'm thinking of an example of, the email address shows up as I'm going to use New Jersey Thrives, but they do it in an uppercase and they use a 1 instead of an I. So just watch for stuff like that. Like you'll see ones that are spelled. I saw one once where somebody sent
Yeah.
me one and it looked like it came from my actual address, and it was my name missing one E, but otherwise it looked just like it. And if you'd looked quickly, yeah, I could have clicked. So I would just say, just watch for the, are they hiding the spelling such that it might
Yeah,
not, it might look okay, but it's not actually okay.
the little sneaky things as like the capital
Yeah,
I and L and
yeah. Capital I and L is a perfect
yeah.
example. Yep.
Yep. Awesome. Moving on to the next question. Any tips, any easy tips for A and B tests for a beginner?
Yeah, actually, the easiest thing is check with your email service provider. Most will allow you to do A/B tests within their tool pretty simply. It really depends on the tool, but for the most part, they offer simple ways to do an email test, an A/B test. And I would start with subject lines because if people don't open, it doesn't matter what you A/B test in the body, they never even see it. There's something called a holdback test. I actually have a slide on this that we didn't go over, but I can show it right now. Really straightforward. A holdback test, do two different subject lines and then send each one to about 5 to 10% of your list. It has to be a randomly selected set, so the tool has to support this, but many do. See which one gets a better open rate, and then send the subject line with the best results to the rest of your list. And that's the easiest way to A/B test when you're getting started.
Great. I just want to quickly reminder for everyone, for you as well and me as well, Tim, 1:23 p.m. We're
Yep.
hitting our mark close. So let's go through these. Next question, what's a good number of emails to send each month to avoid being spammy for catering or food company?
Yeah, what you should pay attention to, there's no easy answer to this. Some businesses can send an email every day and be successful. Some can send one every week and be successful. Some can send one every month and be successful. And each of those could be too much for another business. What you should do is pay attention, test sending more frequently to a smaller set of your list because you know why you're talking to them, and see if your unsubscribe rates go up. If they do, then take your foot on the gas and slow it down a little bit. But it varies by business and it varies by the specifics of what you're talking about. Okay.
Yep, and last question, we're closing the Q&A after. When you set to send a personal email with a link to opt in, how do you set that link up? Can you
Oh,
talk more about that? Thanks.
yeah, sure. So you would just create an email like you would do to anybody, to the person you're sending to. You will have a link within your email service provider tool that says, here's the link that people go to sign up for emails. They will provide that link to you, the email service provider. Actually, I'm going to share my screen slightly differently for a second. Bear with me for just a moment, and I will do this very quick. But if you go to my website as a for instance, I don't mean this to um, I don't mean this specifically to market me. I'm just going to go into a very specific email, um, a specific post rather. See the subscribe link? This subscribe link actually has a link associated with it, and that's provided to me. I happen to use MailChimp for my business, but they give me a link so that if I want to tell people to opt in, they can click the link to subscribe and it goes right to a landing page. But the link comes from, here you go, subscribe to ThinkCell, sign up for our free newsletter. I click this link and it takes me to a form that was created. Notice this says Tim Peter US List Manage. That's actually provided by MailChimp. This isn't on my site, but they gave me a link. I could take this link, copy it into an email, send that to a friend, and when they clicked, they would show up on this page. Okay.
Yep,
Let me
awesome.
get let me
So
get back
that's,
to my slides, and I'm going to run us through a quick recap, if I may.
yep, exactly. There you go.
So just remember our 4 C's of email success. Check out the different services that are available if you don't have an email list. Remember the hub and spoke, and that your email list and website are the hub. Remember that without a list, you have no one to market to. Keep our digital revenue formula in mind, that revenue, visitors times conversion rate times customer lifetime value equals revenue. Keep in mind that most emails are read on a phone, so keep it snackable, shareable, and sharp. Don't forget our king, queen, and crown jewels. Change the relationship from one of being just transactional to one of building the fairy tale romance. And when you do that, email will no longer be the forgotten social network. Instead, your customers will never forget you. I am going to do one quick bit of shameless self-promotion where I want to let you know that I've got a book coming out later this year. It looks like it's going to be out in September, called Digital Reset, about driving marketing and customer acquisition beyond big tech. I'd encourage you to take a look at that when the time comes. And otherwise, thank you so much for your time and attention. I really appreciate it, and some fabulous questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Glorimer. Excuse me, to Uzma. I beg your pardon. Uzma,
That's okay.
I'm going to let you take it
Congratulations
away.
on your book, Tim.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, so that was Tim Peter, everybody. Thank you so much, Tim, for doing this for us. Let me just do my quick, I know we're very close, so let me just do my quick conclusion. So this is our website, njsbdc.com. I think everyone should, keep this as one of the premier resources in their loop for the week or every 2 weeks, however many times you check your small business resources. We have blog posts, we have a toolkit, we have had a podcast, we're gonna have a new business show, all of the many things. And because this webinar is being recorded and it is available on our YouTube channel, I just want to quickly show our video library on the website as well. This is it. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. So if you just keep loading more webinars, more will come. We have had them on all sorts of topics. And yes, you should definitely put in your email, and you should definitely sign up for our newsletters, very apt for the webinar that we just did. So yeah, and all the topics, eco-friendly small business success, how to register your business in New Jersey, credit counseling, credit building, SBIR, CTR, many things. So definitely check this out. I do also want to mention this, all statewide events. So remember the 11 regional centers I mentioned? This is where all of the events and workshops that our entire network does, this is where they show up. So there might be a small fee for those training and events. They might be free, they might be in person, they might be online. We also offer workshops, events, and counseling in Spanish. All you have to do is just let us know, ask for it, and we'll connect you with someone who is Spanish speaking. All right, so that is pretty much it on what I want to show you with njsbc.com. There is more, but just take out a couple minutes of your day and check it out. You've been very kind to attend this webinar with us. If you'd like to attend more, this is an upcoming webinar, session 25 in NJSBDC's top business registration tips with one of our startup consultants, Vanessa. If you joined us before, you'll know that we do these webinars every Tuesday. If you know someone who's an aspiring entrepreneur, refer this to them and they can attend. All right, so we've been in business basically for 46 years. No cost small business consulting, training and events just like this one you attended, exclusive small business resources. Thank you so much for taking out this hour and 30 minutes with us from your day to join us for this webinar. We hope that you will continue to join us for more. And yeah, take care. See you next Tuesday. Thank you, Tim, and thank you all. Take care. Bye.